Welcome to Peace in the Valley, where adventure starts at home. It's time to plant some trees.
Right over here you can see that we are trying to figure out where we're going to put the trees. We were going to do them 10 feet from the property line, but now we think we're going to change that to 15 feet, which is going to put them pretty close, even when they're large trees, to the property line. It might even potentially put them over, but that won't be for many more years and I'll probably be dead by then. But it'll definitely not be on the property line itself. So we're working on that right now. So we're working on figuring out this adventure, where we're going to put the trees. As you can see back here, we just don't have any trees on this part of the property at all. And it just makes it look bare. The grass likes to die easily, and it just does not have a lot. This lot used to actually be the cheese factory here in Antwerp. Now, you don't remember a cheese factory because, well, that was probably before most of us were here. But historian Stan Jordan would always talk about it because he actually lived across the street from the cheese factory. And we were able to buy this land in 2018 and turn it into, well, right now it's turned into nothing. It's just we keep it mowed, and we'd like to have a park area here. So we got to plant some trees. Angel got some trees from the Arbor Day Foundation, and that's where we're going. Okay, we're going to get started.
There are many advantages to planting trees, some obvious and some not so obvious. One of the things I was looking at when doing this was possibly creating a windbreak. It also allows a privacy fence of sorts, but that's just a couple of superficial reasons. Another is the trees don't last forever, so we've got to replace them as the older ones are going to be cut down or fall over in storms. Trees are great. They can be used for creating furniture, tool handles, and much more. One thing I learned from scanning the bicentennial pictures for the courthouse was how beautiful Antwerp was. Right here is East River Street. This is where you'd see the parking lot for where K-Meyer's, the grocery store, used to be, also known as River Street in its later days before the fire. You can see in that picture how much Antwerp has changed, and what used to be beautiful is now a blacktop surface. Which would you rather have? That is why I would like to plant more trees. So what are some of the other advantages that trees might provide besides just the obvious of wood and aesthetics? Well, one of the things is trees provide clean air. Trees provide clean air, and that would be for all of us. That benefits everybody. Another thing is trees are much cooler. It's not uncommon for trees to provide a 10 to 15 degree difference in temperature when the sun is really beating down. So on a neighborhood that has trees versus a neighborhood that doesn't or has very small trees, which one do you think is going to be cooler to want to be in? Well, it's going to be obvious, the one with mature trees. So another thing is trees also protect your house. You say, well, maybe not, because it's going to also might clog your gutters, but it keeps the sun from beating down on your vinyl, which will dry out and crack. It will also provide shade for your house, which will again bring your temperatures down. Trees will also do something else, and that is they will cause the ground to not dry out so quick. Even though trees drink a lot of water, which that's good, some trees will drink up to thousands of gallons a day. That's why they need such a big root structure. But they will also keep your ground from cracking so much and allow other subtree levels to grow, even smaller trees. Your garden a lot of times do much better if they don't have direct sunlight beating on the ground. So trees provide lots of different stuff for us. That includes food too. So if you like your apples, you like your oranges, those come from trees. I love fruit trees. I like my peaches and apricots. Just lots of different good foods come from trees. Another thing is we talked about wood already, but just imagine how many houses would actually be built if there were no trees around here. Right, there wouldn't be very many because most of our houses are made of wood in some form, even if they're brick. Many of them have trees that we use to build the product. Everybody loves to go camping and have campfires, and one of the things that is obviously required for a campfire is wood. That comes from trees. So if we have a campfire, it's interesting, the flames you see are actually hydrogen being released from the wood at about 400 degrees, which makes wood an extremely efficient battery storage device. Why? Well, because hydrogen powers cars. It also can last a long time. If you go charge a battery, you had to dig up, or somebody had to dig up rare earth materials to store that energy. But trees are a fantastic battery storage device, and it will also last for years without having to be recharged. That energy will stay in there until it's released or until it breaks down. Whereas your batteries that you buy in the store, or the typical batteries, don't last all that long. You can charge them. They might last a year. Some may only be a few months. And as you know, with like your car batteries, they don't last all that long if they aren't operated and recharged. Wood, on the other hand, will stay just fine for many years and can release its energy later on. And that's another interesting part about that, is after World War I, many of the communities were so destroyed that they didn't have the ability to get gasoline or oil. So what they did was they converted their cars over to run on wood gas. Wood gas is the way to extract the hydrogen or the wood gas from the wood itself. And they didn't have to dig any dig any coal. They didn't have to extract the oil from the ground by drilling for it. They were only able to use what they had right then and there. Another thing that trees can provide is protecting the soil from erosion. You may not think about it too much, but in the early 20th century and late 19th century, many of the trees around here, well, not just around here, but all over the eastern United States, including Appalachia and a lot of those areas, had their trees all cut down in massive logging operations. Many of the logs were sent over to Europe. They were virgin forests, and they thought there was an unending supply of wood. And for the most part, I suppose it would have been if they would have maintained it properly. It's like anything, though. If you overuse it and don't maintain it, you're going to have problems. In the History Channel miniseries called Hatfields and McCoys, one of the main occupations there for the Hatfield family and how they gathered their wealth was through logging. And they had thousands of acres that they logged. Well, we saw some of the results of that, like in Nashville, Indiana, Brown County. Many people like to go camping there. Looks beautiful now, but at one time the trees weren't there and they were having massive soil erosion problems because of the logging operations. And they cut down all the trees and they just moved on to the next place. That caused many problems for the community and the people there. And we realized what goes wrong when we do not take care of the trees and maintain proper forest management. Trees will also reinvigorate the soil by dropping their leaves onto the ground and letting them break up they will produce a topsoil for the environment on the surface.
Well, the post holes are all dug now. Angel's cleaning them up. We're supposed to do a 3-foot diameter around the center, where we till up the soil and make it so the water will absorb better into it. This soil was really rocky. It was hard. In fact, I think there used to be, I said before that there was a cheese factory here. Not only was there a cheese factory here, but there was concrete, there was gravel drive, and I think a lot of that is actually still here. Just maybe some dirt put on top. So we'll have to pray that these trees can make it through. If they can grow out of rocks, out of the mountains, I don't know why they couldn't here. So we hope that it works.
Something else that loves trees seems to be animals. Why would animals like it? Well, it provides habitat, food, and shelter.
Yeah.
And there's just many reasons why you'd want that, especially if you're a hunter. Hunters don't want things to be destroyed. They actually want to maintain the good environments for their ability to be able to hunt the animals. And without a good habitat for the animals, people will not be able to hunt because you won't have the wildlife. Trees can also save energy. We talked before about the shade they can provide to protect your house from UV rays, and we've also talked about the temperature difference between where the shade is and where the sun is. That is a huge amount of savings if you are running an air conditioner, or it might even make it where you don't need to run the air conditioner and you can run or have high quality air coming from outdoors. They say the indoor pollution of your house is 5 times more than the outdoor air pollution. And getting fresh air is extremely important. So since trees are also a natural air filter, they produce oxygen from carbon dioxide, why wouldn't we want to plant more trees, have more oxygen, and just feel better and live better about it? As the number of trees have declined in big cities, the temperature increase has been quite substantial, up to 6 degrees Fahrenheit in Los Angeles over the last 50 years, and it looks like it could be attributed to just a lack of trees. So now, instead of trees, as we saw back in the picture of Otto Ehrhart's in Antwerp, instead of having trees, we now have asphalt. Well, asphalt absorbs heat and then reflects it back out, creating a much higher temperature, much higher surface temperature. It's pretty obvious that trees can plant themselves just by having the birds of the air who pick up their seeds and replant them, and they will do quite a good job. But part of this around your house takes a lot of planning. If you'll notice that alongside your foundations of your house or your buildings, you may see these mulberry trees or redbud trees, even walnuts. A lot of them will become a weed tree, and they can destroy your foundation. You've got to be very careful. We've seen pictures, and got a building right next to my house, that the foundation and the bricks along it are completely cracked and pulled away because of a mulberry tree. And mulberry trees can grow very, very quickly. You can have, in a couple of years, they can be a 6-inch diameter tree, lift up and crack a foundation. So you've got to be very aware of this and make sure that your tree planting is done by you, if possible, on your property, rather than letting nature just run wild, because I think it's in the movie Jurassic Park, it says that nature finds a way, or life finds a way, and that's absolutely true. These trees, really do want to live, and they will do everything they can, and they don't care if it's next to your foundation or anything else. They will make sure that they will survive. So let's talk about kids. Kids like trees too. You might wonder, how much do I need to spend on a play set? But the honest answer is, if you've got trees in your yard, you might even have a play set ready. I remember one of my favorite times growing up at my parents' house was actually climbing up and building a tree house in a mulberry tree, of all places, that I just talked about how bad it was. Now, mulberry trees are not all bad. They just need to be put in the right place. Put them out in a sheep field or somewhere, which is exactly where the field or the tree was when I was growing up. And the mulberry tree was very large. It must have had 6 main trunks coming out of its roots. And so you could have different people on different sections of this tree, and you could sit up there. I would sit up there for hours. It was a great time of memories. And the tree house itself was just a small piece of plywood that I put up there, nailed to the tree. Nailing a tree is usually not what you want to do, but there's times and exceptions, and that's okay. But we also had a tire swing in that tree. So you could put in a tire swing, you could put in a regular swing, you could have a place where you can just go up and think and have thoughts. It's a great place for kids. So if you have a tree in your yard, you really don't need to spend a lot of money for playground equipment when you have such as that. Something else to consider, we mentioned before, it could be a privacy fence. And in some communities, privacy fences may not be allowed, or they may have certain requirements that they're made of plastic or vinyl. And trees can act as a privacy fence while providing the fresh, clean air and a good habitat at the same time. Sometimes they take a little work to maintain, but so do fences, so do anything. And trees are a great option for this. Several years ago, the Yensers down the road at the 1891 house happened to cut down their black locust trees to open up the visual for the house. I decided that I would ask them if I could have some of the seedlings that kept trying to come up. When you cut down a tree, especially a black locust, they will do everything they can to survive. And as soon as they did, hundreds of trees popped up from the ground, from the roots. And they would cut them off, and the week later they'd be growing right back. And it became kind of a mess for them. And I asked if I could have a couple, and they said yes. So I went and dug them up and transplanted them back at my house. And it's been pretty good because I think most of them have survived. They're actually starting to grow in height, and we are looking forward to those. I like black locust. Some people do not like black locust trees, as they can be a little messy, but they are one of the heaviest woods that grow in North America. They are a hardwood tree that is around the Jenga hardness of white oak, and they grow quickly. They also are an excellent source of wood for fence posts. They do not rot nearly as quickly as other woods, and in fact will outcompete the pressure treated wood that you buy in the store. The pine that they have will not compare to the durability of black locusts, and that's why fence posts that are 100 years old are still standing and functioning fine. Black locust is also an excellent wood for burning for your fireplace. Very nice hardwood, and because of its quick growth, it is regenerative quite well on a forest. If you had 10 acres of woods and many of them were black locusts, you would never run out of a heat source for your home. If you like this video, be sure to like and subscribe. As you can see, trees have many great attributes that we all take advantage of. So today, go out and plant a tree.